Welcome back to Leeds Lately. This is going to be a match reaction to the game that has just happened at the Hawthorns. Leeds 0, West Brom 0, as you can see all around me from the watch-along border. Before we get into it, make sure you hit that big red button down below as it massively helps me out. But like I said, today's video is all about Leeds versus West Brom, and some things need to change. Look, I think we were really poor. Defensively, we were sound, we were strong, we were structurally much better. Positionally, we didn't really look like conceding, apart from maybe that one chance where I think it was Malumbi blasted it straight into Mellier's gloves from a little pass across the box from John Swift. But in terms of our actual play with the ball, trying to go forward, trying to attack, awful. Like, no one could pass the ball to each other. No one could take a good touch. I mean, I saw multiple of our players had trampolines strapped to their feet. Joel Peru, just touch of an elephant, flying off in all directions, not at the moment beating the allegations about him being a donkey. Mateo Joseph took a couple of terrible touches. Dan James took a couple of bad touches. Nonto, I thought, was the only kind of bright spark, but he cannot do it all on his own. I think we missed Jorginho immensely. In a game like that, and I talked about this throughout the stream, in a game like that, Jorginho is the type of player who can go past someone, or at least one player, which then opens up the rest of the pitch, because all of those opposition players have to readjust once the press is, or once the line has been broken. And Jorginho is the type of guy who can do that. I also think the only person similar in terms of his ability to be able to do that, not as well, but like he can do it, is Brendan Aronson, which I called for from probably the 30th minute. I said he needs to come on for Joel Peru, and I also thought that Joe Rothwell needed to come on in that midfield for Gruev. But that wasn't the case. He took Dan James off for Rothwell, which kind of took more of our attacking players off the pitch. I think potentially we went into a bit of a 4-3-3 in the end, but again, it was too late. It didn't really change anything. I just thought we were so bad defensively. Look, we looked strong, but this is what we had under Jesse Marsh. We had to pick, didn't we? Do you not remember? Back when we were in the Premier League, we had to pick whether we were going to attack a team and score a couple of goals, but also concede a boatload, or we had to decide whether we were going to defend, like that game against Newcastle away where we defended for our lives and got a draw, but we had no attacking impetus whatsoever. And so that's this in a nutshell, really. We've defended. Look, okay, we're not massively overacting, because West Brom are one of the best teams in the league, and of course they got to the playoffs last season, lost out to Southampton, who obviously we'll all know eventually went on to be promoted from the Premier League. But for me, we still need to present more of an attacking threat than we did. West Brom had more of an attacking threat than we did. We just did not provide enough in terms of going forward. It was really poor. We tried, I think, in this game to play on the break, to sit in, to defend. 2 banks of 4 with 2 up top is the defensive unit, which we always do, but a little bit more compact. Then when we tried to win the ball back, when we got the ball back, we then tried to break, but we weren't good enough at breaking with it because we kept giving the ball away. So we kept then basically passing in front of our players, passing behind our players into touch. When the pass actually was accurate, the touch was bad. No one was able to pull anybody else into play. The only person, like I said at the start, was Nonto, who, because he kind of played on that left-hand side and he would get the ball, he would look in front of him and go, I've got nothing on here. So he would cut back inside across the middle of the pitch and then play a low pass out to Dan James. But then either that gets cut out or Dan James has no other help and eventually has to go back to the centre-backs. I would like to see how many touches Ajayi, Bartley, Rodon and Strauch had in that game, because I think it will be more than anybody else. They seem to have the ball constantly. I seem to be only saying their names in commentary. It was a stalemate. It was one of the most championship-y games I've ever seen. I just think we need to have some signings come through the door. People who can change games. Look, you need people who can play good passes, accurate passes on the break. You need people who can take a player on, which I think Jonathan Rowe fits into that mould. Yes, people will go, well, no, he prefers the move to Marseille or whatever. What I'm saying is, bang the cash on the table, say, Norwich City, here's £15 million, take it or leave it. Do the same for Morgan Whittaker, do the same for whoever else it was that I said I'd like us to sign, potentially some defenders as well. Do it. Just put the money on the table and say, okay, come on then, what have you got? Because at the moment, when you look at our bench, we brought on Brendan Aronson and Rothwell. After that, it was Bamford, and then when you look at the rest of the bench, you go, okay, well, we've got a youth player. We've got Sam Byram, who is a backup fullback, so he's not going to change your game. And after that, it's just not a couple of youth players, actually. So it's not, our squad isn't anywhere near as strong because we've let these players go. So we really need to reinvest now, because in games like this, it's showing exactly why you do not have that quality to finally finish it off. I felt sorry for Mateo Joseph today because, yes, he was taken off later on, but he had no service. He had nothing to feed off. He was having to come deep and try and win the ball, but even then, he wasn't having a great game in terms of his passing and his touches and his actually carrying the ball. And it just, honestly, it was one of the worst games of Championship football I've seen. Really, really poor standard of quality. West Brom were trying, you could see a discernible style with them. Would always see that against other teams. They were playing a lot of long balls, but they were targeted long balls. They were trying to stretch the play by playing long balls out to the wingers, and a lot of the time it worked, which is why when people asked me who my player of the match was, I actually said it was Furlong, Darnell Furlong, who played right back for them, because so much of the game he spent overlapping, trying to get the ball in the box, taking long throws, creating chances. He had a really good game because they were trying to play that certain specific style. We just looked like we were trying to play on the break, and then when it came to us actually trying to attack on the break, we just didn't look like we had it in us. We just did not look like we had the ability to go forward with the ball. Joel Peru would give the ball away. We would just play the ball into touch, behind, in front people. It was really, really poor to watch. So we need to improve massively. Our next game is on next Friday. We have to improve for that, and we have to have at least 1 or 2 signings in the door by next Friday. We have to, because otherwise we're in a position where you look to the bench and go, who can change this game? And you've got nothing. You've got nothing and no one who can come on and change the game. We have to bring in some decent attacking players. There'll be videos coming out midweek talking about who those players might be, who I'd like to see brought in. We'll be doing a little bit more research on them and some scouting reports, so make sure you look out for that on the channel. Thanks for watching Leeds Lately. Thanks for sitting through this, even though it was one of the worst games of football you've probably ever seen. And hopefully next time we're talking about something a bit more positive. Thanks for watching Leeds Lately. I'll see you in the next one.